Hey guys, what's up? It's Alex or Nuznuz, and today's video is going to be talking about SwitchScape. It's a topic that has been the center of a lot of discussion in the Runescape 3 community, but will SwitchScape ever be changed or improved? And what is the consensus from people on SwitchScape? Is there a consensus? Well, we had a recent poll released by ModSponge that we're going to dive into today, but first, let's actually talk a bit about what SwitchScape actually means and what it is. So SwitchScape is the common reference to how PVM has so many different switches, and that it sometimes can seem a bit overboard, especially for people that are newer to PVM or even high-level PVMers. I've got to say, for me, sometimes it gets a bit much too, although I understand it. Now, just as a very broad example, let's talk about a few rings. So for instance, when I go to PVM, I will usually wear something like the Reaver's Ring or the Ring of Death. Most people will wear rings like this, but then I will also always bring a Ring of Vigor switch whenever I use an ultimate ability, and I'll also bring a Planted Feet switch, and then I will also need to bring a Luck of the Dwarves switch to switch to when I kill a boss. This is just a few switches for the ring slot. Now, a common argument is that you don't actually need to bring all those rings, and that's sort of true, which we'll get into that in a bit, but this is just an example of what SwitchScape actually is referring to, so you guys kind of know if you didn't before. So I thought this video would kind of be a fun discussion to get all your thoughts on this topic and see what you guys think could be improved or maybe not be improved. Jagex Sponge actually released a Twitter poll recently asking this question. How do you feel about SwitchScape? Should it be embraced or should it be left as a player option? Or should we try to reduce it, like adding quality of life fixes to switches, such as a Ring of Vigor having a passive upgrade granting the effect from your bank or inventory? Or do you hate SwitchScape so much that you think it should just be totally removed? So here are the actual results of this poll. 7.7% of people said they want more switches. 46.1% of players said to stop introducing new switches, and then 42% of players said to improve the existing switches, and then we have 4% of players who commented something different. So based on this poll of players, it seems as 88% of players either want SwitchScape to have its current switches improved or to stop introducing more switches. This is very interesting as it really shows how the vast majority of players want something changed or reduced about SwitchScape, while only 7% of people enjoy it or want even more switches. For me personally, I really agree with a comment from my friend Wazweir. He said, good SwitchScape is when a decision has to be made, like which Criminal Bolt to use, or when you want to use Tectonic, or would you want to switch to Crypt Bloom. This has basically kind of been how I felt about SwitchScape as well. For instance, we can't totally get rid of every single switch. Like Criminal Bolts, for example. It makes sense to switch Criminal Bolts based on what scenario you're in. And if you want to use more than one type throughout a fight, you need to swap them. There's not really a way around this. It wouldn't make much sense to make some almighty Criminal Bolt harnessing the power of every single Criminal Bolt tip. That would be extremely overpowered, but it would kind of be a bit funny, so I'd be interested to see that, but you get my point. There's some things that make sense, and then there's some that just don't. Things like the Ring of Vigor switch, for example, almost everyone uses this. It's not something that you think, should I swap to my Ring of Vigor right now to Ultimate, or should I not? The answer is clear, you definitely should, and most people do. This is similar to Luck of the Dwarves, and we actually had Luck of the Dwarves turned into a relic power so more people can use it without having to bring it. Of course, you have to decide, do I want to take up relic power to use this, or would I rather spend the time to switch? So as ModSponge mentioned, having a Ring of Vigor available as an upgrade to gain use from the bank or the inventory, kind of like the Shadow Pontifex ring, actually sounds like a great idea. This wouldn't be something that's like free. You wouldn't just be able to use your Ring of Vigor passively whenever. It seems like something you'd have to actually pay to unlock first. Sort of like how I mentioned the Shadow Pontifex ring, where you have to upgrade it and overcharge it to gain access to those passive effects. So the people that wanted to pay in either dungeon tokens, GP, or whatever they decide to gain access to the passive Ring of Vigor would pay for it. And then the people that don't want to pay for it or didn't mind switching could also do that as well. I think for certain items, this could be a good way to kind of decrease how many switches we have, while also not giving things away for free. Like, I don't know, the Slayer helmet stand, that was a nice addition. Not many people were switching to the Slayer helm, but it kind of gave you that passive Slayer helm buff if you got things on a Slayer task, which was nice. So something that I personally would love to have added, and I know many others agree with me, would be a dual wield switch with one button. This is something that I currently do not do. I don't even have my weapons keybinded, so I just click them to equip them manually. So if I need to switch to like dual wield magic from a staff, I need to either click twice or use 2 different keybinds. But something that many people have done that I know for a fact is people have created macros to switch dual wield weapons in 1 button press and not 2. Is this allowed? I actually am not sure, but I know many people have done it. I personally haven't done this, but it really shows that there is improvement to be made. So if Jagex made dual wield weapons like that could be paired together, that could be swapped with 1 button, it would just make things feel a lot smoother. Like for instance, if you could put your seismic wand and orb on 1 button, so when you click that button it would switch to both of them instead of having to click 2 keybinds, that would be really, really nice. I mean, we already have the improvement of being able to equip a weapon and then our action bar to automatically pair to that weapon and switch. I think it would make sense to have 1 keybind be available to switch to dual wield weapons. Now I understand we can't remove all switches, and like I said before, that doesn't really make a ton of sense, but it does make sense to reward those a little bit who like to bring a vast amount of switches to put in that effort, even if it's a minuscule effect. There's a lot of people who want to put in that extra effort for that small increase, and that's okay. We shouldn't take that away from everyone, but we should increase some of these quality of life improvements and maybe stop adding switches, because at a certain point, we already have a lot of switches. In 2-3 years with more bosses, more things coming out, it's going to really, really add to kind of like just inflate the amount of things and amount of time you're actually spending switching than actually doing other things while PVMing, like focusing on abilities and mechanics. It's going to make it difficult to add in more intricate mechanics, I feel, because if you're so focused on switching and switching becomes such a big part of PVM, trying to add different mechanics that are, more interesting or more intricate might not be possible with having to keep up with all the switches. But things that make sense, like the Ring of Vigor passive and dual wield being paired together, I think can be pretty good. I think this can be helpful also for new players and to get more people into PVM and get more people into enjoying the bosses and mechanics rather than having to be so focused on switches. Now, I understand it from the other 7% players' point of view. They put in the work to learn, to get skilled, to switch all these things all at once, and they don't want to lose, their little advantage that they have, that they put in the effort to learn. And I understand that. If I put an effort to learning something like 4-tick auto attacking, which I haven't learned, but if I did and then they removed it the next day, I might be a little upset that I tried to learn all that and now it's removed. So I understand, and I don't think that all switches are bad, but like I said, there are certain scenarios and certain things that I think can make just things a lot more smoother and benefit current players, future content, and new players as well. Another thing is the Ring of Death. People have talked about this and about making this kind of like a passive where you can, use the Ring of Death passively, either as a relic or something else, so you don't have to always switch it on or remember to switch it on, so you don't lose a ton of money when you die. Now, this is something a lot of people have wanted, but something that also comes with this is it kind of is like putting a band-aid on another issue, which is death costs, which is a whole nother video I'd have to make on that. But of course, Jagex says they're working on death costs, so that would be a totally different video. But so where do you guys stand on SwitchScape? What do you think? I'd love to know below. Make sure to keep your comments civil, of course. We're all friends here, but for me, I think I stand with the majority of the comments on this, where I don't think SwitchScape should be, entirely deleted. I think there still should be kind of something for the people that want to put in that effort, but I do think there's a ton of stuff that is just not needed at all, that kind of just clogs up a bunch of stuff, and you know, the new player experience, new PVMer experience just gets bogged down with all this stuff. So I think there is definitely room for a lot of improvement, but I also don't think we should just, you know, delete everything and not give any, you know, any SwitchScape at all. I think there's kind of a middle ground here, and that's usually where I stand on a lot of these things. But let me know what you guys think. This video was more of kind of like rambling, talking about this topic, because I've always found it interesting and wanted to make a video on it. But now that I saw that poll, I kind of motivated me to actually talk about it. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. I hope you enjoyed this discussion. I hope it was an interesting one. And yeah, like the video if you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe for more videos like this, and I'll see you all in the next video.